Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Gran Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Gran Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Gran Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Gran Group with Edina Realty, three-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' three-game series against the Kansas City Royals. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins do what they need to do in order to stay relevant in the AL Central, taking all three games at home against the Kansas City Royals. Can you believe it, Dan?
I think this is kind of par for the course, though, for the Twins, right? If there's one team they can beat up on, it's the Kansas City Royals.
It certainly seems that way, and you kind of hope that they just see them again and again and again, but unfortunately, that's not the way the schedule works, Dan.
No, we're going to have one more series against the Royals here, or not here, I should say, but coming up in Kansas City, but that's it. But the Guardians get a bunch of games with them at the end of the season.
So I was looking at this, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like looking at the schedules, and I'm laying them out, putting who has who and how many games left, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking, what is happening here? The Guardians end the season with 6 games against the Royals, and the last 3 games that they play in the season, Dan, are all makeup games.
Maybe, but I mean, that was the series that I think that they just moved from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and it just happened to be that it was the Royals series for the Guardians.
Yeah, so it gets interesting. I broke down the schedules remaining for each of the teams in the AL Central who are still in it. So the Twins have 5 against the Guardians, then 3 against the Royals, 3 against the Angels, 3 against the White Sox, 3 against the Tigers, and then they finish out the season with a 3-game set against the White Sox. Now the Guardians have 5 against the Twins, 3 against the White Sox, 3 against the Rangers, 3 against the Rays, and then, like we just said, the 6 games against the Royals. And then the White Sox have 3 against the Tigers, 3 against the Guardians, 3 against the Tigers, 3 against the Twins, 3 against the Padres, 3 against the Twins. Now, Dan, I don't know, but to me, it seems like the Twins have the easiest road to victory here.
I mean, I guess, but like, bottom line, they're just going to beat up on each other, and hopefully somebody comes out. It's so close, though, David. I mean, this is really interesting for 3 mediocre-ish teams, and I know the Guardians are up to 10 over 500, so like they're kind of creeping into being a legitimate division winner. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun here the next couple weeks.
Yeah, it was interesting that you didn't know that Hogs was a Badger fan. I think you knew that he was a Packer fan, but you didn't know about the Badger blood.
I didn't assume that he had 2 bad bloods in his body, right, churning together. So that was a great weekend for me. I'm sorry, Hogs, that the Cougs beat up on the Badgers there. I had been to that game. It was 15 years ago. I watched the Cougs get beat up by the Badgers then. So I'm sorry, Hogs, for that tough weekend with the Badgers, the Packers, and the Twins all having bad weekends. But thank you for filling in for me, Hogs. I appreciate that.
Well, with that, Dan, we're not even stalling. Like, this was a good series. Let's go ahead and jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
David, we have so much to say about game 1 that is going to fit in later because of this, meaningless near outcome here that the Twins nearly had something called a no-hitter. They didn't even have a complete game, David. So I don't even know why we're going to talk about this, but people seem to care about these things. So we'll get to a lot of that later. But the Twins do win this game, David, 6-3.
Okay, so here's the thing, though, folks. Before we go any further, and yes, we are going to talk about Rocco pulling Joe Ryan, 70 innings pitched of no-hit baseball. Now, if you just listen to what Dan Thompson had to say to intro this game, you would think that this is a guy who clearly doesn't care about no-hitters. But I have the receipts, folks, and I have brought
What
them.
are you talking about?
And
it's a hypothetical question. You go ahead.
Dan was pretty interested and eager during this no-hitter in progress. He sent a text asking, what do you do with Joe Ryan here? Do you let him try the 8th? Now,
would you stop? I'm just stirring the pot, David. I know you and Hogs love this.
Let me ask you this, folks. Does that sound like a guy who's not interested in no-hitters? Because to me, that sounds like a guy who's pretty invested.
I'm interested in the way that when you're driving on the highway and everybody's slowing down because on the other side of the highway there's a minor car accident. That's why I'm interested, right? I'm interested because I have to be interested because you are going to be interested. So I have to have something to say. That's why, David.
I do wonder how much time you put into thinking about this because you knew I'd bring it to the show, Dan.
I have to be ready, but we're going to save that for later. Other things to talk about, though, which, again, I will come back to this. A 6-3 game doesn't sound like a significant game, but the Twins do get a huge win here, I think, to kick off a series that they had to sweep. Some interesting things happened. Apparently, Tommy Watkins I don't know. I'm very confused about what Tommy Watkins is doing, David.
So it's the bottom of the third, and you have Correa on second, and there's a single hit by Miranda. And Correa's running from second to third, and he's looking at Watkins, and Watkins isn't giving him a stop sign, and he's not giving him a go sign. So Correa, not knowing what to do, just starts chugging his way down to home plate, and he's thrown out. I mean, it's not even a close play. Like, Correa gave up, after he'd taken like 8 to 10 steps off the bag of third base. He's like, okay, well, I'm out. And so here's the thing. I think, Dan, Tommy Watkins did this out of fear, knowing that if he made the right call, he'd hear it from me, Dan.
Well, doesn't he have to make a decision? Like, that's the thing that I don't understand that. Send him.
It's his only job, Dan. It's literally his only job is to either send guys or stop guys at third base. You're not reading the signs to figure out if you're stealing home. Maybe a squeeze play once every 80 games or something. But my goodness, Tommy, one job, buddy. One job. Hands up or windmill. That's it. That's really all you have to decide here.
Well, luckily it didn't really matter. A couple of game plays that didn't really matter is, first of all, you see Billy Hamilton hit a baseball hard. I was stunned. It was late in the game. It didn't matter much. It ended up being just a long fly out to left, but I guess that was encouraging to know that he can swing a bat and make contact. And then another play down the right field line, and now I'm forgetting which Twin it was, but there was spectator interference. It's not fans. They're spectators. And he reached over, and it was an interesting play because they ended up reviewing it, and they said that he had not interfered. But it was funny to watch the man who's sitting there in that front row, being basically adjudicated there, for everyone to see. What would you do? Would you reach into the field of play? Where would you have the invisible barrier there and be able to honor that?
Yes, I would. And honestly, it's 100% out of fear and cowardice. Because here's the thing. I may know the result, whether it would benefit my team or not, whether I interfere, right? But I would be so nervous, and I'd be calculating in my mind so many things that the only thought I can have is I would be holding myself and those around me away from interfering with the play. That's why I just don't sit that close to the wall. Problem solved.
Sure. Well, the thing is, I know you don't like those seats anyway down the line.
No,
the sight lines.
I hate them. Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. But Isbell, the right fielder of the Royals, you would kind of think the Royals were a little bit closer to 500 here. I guess he's got a nice fire in his belly, but he was pretty upset that play he didn't get a chance to make it.
It's fine. I don't know.
I think
we're not talking about the Cubs World Series run here being destroyed, right?
A couple other things from this game. We'll talk about Carlos Correa much more later, but he had a big game. He was 2 for 4 with 3 RBI and a run, and then also Gary Sanchez doing what I guess he does, grounding into a couple of double plays.
He saved himself from my bench slot just because he had a couple of other big hits. But my goodness, that guy, there are times when you do wonder how much better off they would be with playing Leon in virtually every game that he can play in.
Well, let's go to game 2. This was a pretty, I would argue, even a more decisive victory. 4-0 for the Twins here. A combined 5-hitter. That's what it was between Sonny Gray and Caleb Thielbar and Jorge Lopez.
Yeah, so combined 5-hitter. My goodness, man. Gray looks absolutely outstanding. And I would say I think this is his best start of the season. And not just because it's against the Royals. His fastball, his sinker pitches, they all had so much life on them. And if you watch some of the replays of his strikeouts, the movement and the internal and external break on the ball is nuts.
But here's the thing. They're playing the Royals. Wouldn't it be a little bit different? Did you not just hear
me qualify?
I heard you qualify. But at the same time, I just have a hard time. I can't be effusive with my praise when Twin starters go 7 against the Royals, because that's what they ought to do. Go 7 against the Dodgers, and then we have something here.
Well, would you expect him to go 7 against the Dodgers?
Well, no. But so I guess I'm happy that he went 7 against the Royals. I'm just saying I want it to be against the Dodgers to feel like it's his best start of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, the level of competition matters, doesn't it?
It does, but I'm looking at it purely from the movement on his pitches, less about the outcome, I guess, if that makes sense.
Sure, and I get that too, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, that I just felt that the way the ball was moving out of his hand just looked the best I'd seen it all season.
When you're playing the Royals, that's what you need to do. You need to go 7, especially with a big series against the Guardians looming.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have the ability to know what would have happened if he threw the exact same pitches to a different lineup.
Sure.
But to me, just for the eye test here, he looked quite good.
Anything else from game 2 here, sir?
There was a really good catch by Celestino. He didn't really have to dive for it or even really jump for it. He just used his speed and he got a great break on the ball. But Celestino, man, let me tell you,
player, David.
I just last night in the game, he almost got thrown out at second again, but he tripped over himself on a single that probably saved him from getting thrown out and from trying to stretch it into a double.
Well, and even looking at game 3, he had a double, and then he kind of pulled up lame in kind of a weird way. Maybe that's a triple in other circumstances, but there's no hustle in Gilberto Celestino, it seems.
No. And for a guy who's not an everyday player, you would think you want to see Jake Cave type hustle out of him.
Exactly. Well, and then looking at game 3, David, this is probably the best baseball game of the bunch. 3-2 victory for the Twins. They make 3 early runs stand up, but the Royals had plenty of chances here to tie this or even take the lead late.
Yeah, so the Twins pitching staff gave up 6 hits only, but the thing was the number of pitchers needed to be used is a little bit frustrating, especially going into a 5-game set against Cleveland. So Bundy goes 4 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, and I'm going to say that is a garbage line, just as a precaution against future threats on my life for praising Dylan Bundy, which never happened. Anyway, so it went Bundy, McGill, Jax, Thielbar, Fulmer, and Duran. And actually, the time when it felt most dangerous to the Twins was Duran in the 9th struggled a little bit. He gave up 2 hits.
He did, and they were softer hits, but I credit him for wiggling out of that. Though the first 2 guys get on, the Royals bunt. I don't know about that in that spot. You've got so much speed on the bases. I just think you're probably not going to hit into the double play. And against Duran, I don't know that you want to give up an out like that.
No, and honestly, why don't you just try and steal a base? You got a pretty good chance against this Twins team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Try to steal third. Try to steal your way into that situation, because then at least you still have the guy at second base. I thought that was a curious play, but Duran's able to get a strikeout and a couple of their outs, and he's able to avoid trouble.
Yeah, the only other note here, I'm really frustrated as we get into our segments because my guy Miranda grounds into 2 double plays in this. I don't know how often this has happened, Dan, but Sanchez hitting into 2 double plays in game 1 and then Miranda hitting into 2 double plays in game 3. I didn't know Joe Mauer was on this roster, Dan.
Oh my gosh. Carlos Correa hits into his fair share too here, David.
Correa, you're going to be praised. Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, David, even the greats have their moments of grounding into double plays. That's my point.
Okay, well, let's get going into our segments here. Puckett's Picks Winner.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks Winner.
David, I didn't win this one, but I feel pretty good about the 3 picks that we made considering our options here.
It's impressive, really. So the listeners took Correa for their 3rd series in a row, and he won again for them. This makes it 3 in a row for the listeners. The listeners had 17 points with Correa. Dan took Urshela, which is kind of a wild card pick, who had 12 points. And I took Miranda, who just really, really wanted to make sure I didn't win Puckett's picks, and he scored 6 points.
I know. And again, we had a great first game. I think it was like 25 points total in the first game. This has got to be one of our higher scoring trios. But the listeners, again, making it interesting here. So they have 14 wins. I have 15. You have 16. Much different than last season. And most importantly, I think, David, is the listeners have passed you in season points scored. You have 201. The listeners have 208. And I have a safe 240 here. Even if I don't end up winning the season wins here, if I end up winning the season points scored, I'm going to call that a victory as well.
I think that's not how the game works, but sure. If it helps you sleep, that's great. I do have to say, though, at this point, the listeners are always going to take Correa because you would be so foolish not to. We might be in some trouble here, Dan, at this rate.
I know. They always get the first pick. All right, well, speaking of Correa, we should go into here the Beast versus Bench.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Yeah, I'll piggyback here. I got to give it to Correa. We joke about the whole championship culture thing, and those of you who aren't in on the joke, we say that because obviously Correa had a little bit of sketchy, let's call them morals, I guess, when he was with the Astros, with trash can banging and sign stealing. But anyway, championship culture, there's something to be said about a guy who clearly wants to win and clearly knows when it's time for the big boys to step up. Because my goodness, Dan, the picture that he is showing of himself putting this team on his shoulders is just impressive.
I mean, there's nobody left on this team. I mean, even we saw Arias kind of left game 2 early, so we don't know. They said MRI is fine. I think he's probably going to tough it out and play, but he's probably not going to be 100% now the rest of the way. You got Correa, you got Miranda, who wasn't even on this team opening the season, and you got Urshela, who was kind of this extra guy. It is remarkable that I realize, again, it was the Royals, but the fact that they got a sweep with the lineup they're putting out there right now feels pretty good.
Yeah. Who's your beast?
Well, it's going to be Joe Ryan because of his great start that he had. You go 7 innings, you strike out 9, you only have 2 base runners. That's a pretty good day.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to be celebrated, though, right? He didn't go the whole game.
No, he didn't do the whole game. It wasn't a perfect game. It wasn't perfect 7. So anyway, we should move on here to the bench.
Yeah, I got to give it to Garlick here. Remember when he came back off the IL? And that's how depleted this team was. How excited we were that Kyle Garlick, a guy who by a lot of accounts shouldn't really be on a major league roster. Like he can hit left-handed pitching, but apparently only sometimes. He's become much less consistent. He goes 1 for 9 with 5 Ks in this series. And the thing is, it's not, 1 for 9 is bad, right? 5 Ks is bad. But it was just, there were a lot of big moments where he came up where all you need to do is make a productive out, and he failed to do so, and it just drove me nuts this series.
Well, he batted top 3 in the lineup in each of those games too, so you're getting even more of those painful at bats. My question to you, I guess, is if the Twins are in a position to bring an outfielder back at some point, which maybe they will be, would you rather have Garlick or Cave right now?
I hate this question more than anything you've ever asked me, Dan. I think at this point I would take Cave because of his versatility in the outfield. The thing is, one at bat, either of them could be successful, right? Like, I guess if I have an at bat and I can choose the situation, I would want Garlick obviously against a lefty with nobody on base. That seems to be when he's best. And I want Jake Cave to be the at bat that will likely determine whether he stays with the team or gets sent down. like then I'm not sure who I would take. I do think though Cave is the more logical choice just because he has more utility.
I just think that's fascinating that you just can't get rid of Jake Cave. There's just no way.
No, Dan, you and I, we're going to be 90. We're going to be in a nursing home together, and we're going to be talking about how Jake Cave is definitely not going to make the team this year.
Think of all the board games we're going to play in that nursing home together, David.
Oh,
that's going to be fantastic. Are you ready to be old like that? I feel like that's your setting, too. Like you and I, we will thrive in nursing homes.
Are you kidding me? Like, you're listening to the Twins on the radio and you're playing board games? Oh, Dan.
Nothing better.
Let me tell you. Sign me up, man. And Jello? All you can eat Jello, Dan.
I could do without the Jello. Unless
pudding,
it's got the little mandarin oranges in it, I think.
Yeah, it's not good. What are we talking about?
My bench, anyway. I'm gonna stick with game 1. I'm gonna go with Giovanni Moran for coming up and just giving up a couple runs there, even threatening. Like, he put the game at risk. That's the thing. 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 hits in his 2 innings. He does have it at the 4 strikeouts to get out of it. But man, come on, Giovanni.
Yeah, I did tweet out at this point. I said, "Wow, that sure went from we might throw a combined no-hitter to I hope we don't blow this game in a hurry." That was a rough one, Dan.
They had Duran warming up. Oh my gosh.
It is fun, though, to see that the Twins only took 2 pitchers to get through a complete game.
That is nice. Right, well, we have more to say about the situation. Let's go into the next segment.
Rocco's Rewind.
We got to ask the question, Dan. And here's the deal. I tweeted just another situation of Rocco pulling the starter too early. Now, if you can't be pithy and petty on Twitter, Dan, where can you be pithy and petty? Because, honestly, it was the right call. 106 pitches. You really need to win this game. There's no way he's getting through 2 innings. Like, especially the way that he's throwing, he's not hitting directly in the zone. He's trying to hit his spots. There's no way he completes this game. And so here's the thing. Pulling him is the right choice, especially knowing you need him in 5 days against Cleveland. So I get the haters out there. And yeah, if we were 30 games back in the Central, sure, let him throw. But not in this game, Dan.
I agree with you. But then my question is this. What if it's a perfect game? That doesn't change the calculus to you?
No, I don't think so. I think somebody pointed out, like, remember with Santana and what happened with his arm after his outing with the Mets? You just don't want to see that happen. And granted, Ryan has shown himself to be durable, but I still think the right call is to pull him. I'm sure I'll get some hate for that.
Well,
but
well, let me make the other argument. So, and I can't believe that I am the one defending, a no-hitter or anything like this. But let's say, can we pretend it's a perfect game that he's got? Because that'll make me feel better making my argument.
Okay.
This is why I might stick with him in there, even with a high pitch count. You need a lot of things to go your way down the end of the season here to get back in and make the playoffs, right? You need a ton of things. What better than your young ace going out there and throwing a perfect game? And think of the momentum that could build. And Hogs is a momentum guy. I just feel like there's something there that might be worth it. Like the story that would lead to down the road here, like Twins go from 5 games back and then they have a perfect game and then they win the World Series. Like, wouldn't that be a great story?
It would be a great story. I think that's what it is, though, Dan. It's a story. I just don't think that it would be the right call to leave him in. And I do want to say, I am a little bit disappointed that Ryan was so pouty in the 8th and the 9th inning. Like, dude, like, I get it. Like, I don't get it, right? Like, there's a part of me that will just never get it, right? Like, it's just, I will never be in this situation. So I can't fully say that I understand it. But at the same point, it's a team game. You got to be there for your team. And having this pouty face is just not a good look.
Well, here's the thing. He's going to be in this spot again, I think, at some point in his career. He's been that good. Consider he is a rookie, and he has been so consistent for this Twins baseball team. Again, we point to that trade. You get him for a half season of Nelson Cruz, not even a half season. Brilliant move there. Maybe that might go down as one of the best Twins trades in history.
Are you sure not this, when they traded Rogers for Paddock and Puckett?
Well, we're going to have to see the iterations of that down the road here. I'm pretty sure they might move Lopez, and then we'll get another trade down the road from that. Can I go to my rewind here?
Yeah, please do.
So it actually mentions Lopez, and this might seem like kind of this weird, simple moment, but I did like that they used Lopez in game 2 in a 4-0 game, so a non-save situation, because he is so important to this team if they're going to be successful. Like, they need Jorge Lopez to be right. He had given up runs in 3 of his last 4 outings, and I think just getting him back on the mound, he pitched a clean inning. Well, clean enough. He had 1 hit, but he had the strikeout, no damage done. And then he didn't pitch game 3, so he's going to be the guy, right, in the first game of the Guardian series if the Twins have a lead late. So I really liked that usage because he's just got to get right. He's got to get back to how he was really when he wasn't even playing for the Twins, when he was playing with Baltimore.
It's not like he's seeing an increase in competition. That's the part that maybe bothers me the most about this, is like, you went from Yankees, Red Sox, Rays to the Royals, the White Sox, and the Guardians. Like, there is clearly a step down in your competition level here. You should be dominating.
Yeah, so maybe that gets him right. Well, hey, let's move into our Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
Just because we've been talking about the pitching, I'll start us off here. So I just want to say, having 2 quality starts by our best starters and knowing that both of these guys will be on the team next year, when have we had that, Dan? When's the last season you remember that we had 2 pitchers who we were as confident in as Ryan and Gray heading into a season?
It's probably got to be back to like Liriano, right? And Johan?
The first stint, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's probably got to be it. I would love to mention Kyle Gibson here, but I just don't think that there's a space for where we've ever really felt like great about Kyle Gibson until he went to pitch for somebody else.
Yes, and then we were longing for him, Dan, when we were throwing out Dobnik and whoever else we could find.
Well, and here's the thing. Now they get the 5-game series against the Guardians. They're going to need those guys to come up with another start. And that's one thing I do like about the 5-game series in some sense. It's kind of like these minor league series where they're 6-game series. Like, you're going to get a pretty full picture of a team over 5 games.
Yeah, it is a little bit disappointing, though, that they're at the back end as opposed to the front, because it's kind of like, okay, guys, hold on here for these first couple games until we can get to our good starters.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take my moment to the other side of the bat, so to speak. I'm going to go with Correa's home run in game 3 on Roberto Clemente Day. We're going to talk more about that in our Herbie's headline, but he has been such a spark for this team. And I have 4 reasons, David, why I think I would sign him to a big deal. Are you ready for my 4 reasons?
I could not be more ready, Dan.
So first off, he wants to be here. He keeps talking about how much he loves Minnesota. And I get that he doesn't have to, I get that partially maybe that's just him saying nice things, but he doesn't have to be so effusive with his praise, David. There doesn't have to do that.
That's an English teacher word there, Dan.
Effusive. He's a great September player, right? He's played his best baseball of the year this month so far for the Twins. He's clearly a leader on the field in just the way that he's like always present out there, whether it's interacting with other teams, it's interacting with his own teammates, his pitchers, whatnot. And also he's talked about being a mentor for Jose Miranda, which I would hope then if that relationship could really grow, if they could be that side of the infield here for the next 5-6 seasons, I think that's really great. I would give him 6 years, $225, right? It's a little bit of a raise over what he's got.
I think it's reasonable. I just don't know. And here's the thing. I had far less confidence when guys used to say that sort of thing about how I really want to be here. But then Buxton's contract came along.
Yeah.
And I started to believe that, well, if Buxton was really telling the truth and he does actually want to be here and he could see himself as a lifelong Twin, well, maybe Correa's talking about it with a little bit more honesty as well.
Yeah, so I think that's possible, and I think they see each other as a pair, and I think, you look at this team. If you've got Luis Arias, Carlos Correa, Jose Miranda, you've got Buxton, I feel like that's a really good core here that really could win a championship in the next couple seasons.
All right, well, with that, Dan, let's keep going to Mauer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
I feel so hopeful David. I don't know. I shouldn't be this hopeful. Hogue said they would do this, right? He said that they would come back and they'd win. They're 4 games back.
Is that much of a prediction though going in against the Royals to start?
That's true. I'm going to stick with my train here of having a core. So I'm going to try to not go off here on the rules changes because I think you guys handled them really well. But with the shift being banned, how much better, and I say that in quotation marks, will Max Kepler be next season?
I bet he averages about a half hit more per game.
That's a hard thing to calculate. So like, what does that sound like over the course of a season? So, hello. Oh, so 80 more hits a game or 80 more hits on a season, right?
Yeah.
That's a significant change.
Well, because here's the thing. Every single out that he records is to the spot where they put the guy in shallow right field.
That's why they put him
every
there,
single
right?
out. He is the only time when they don't record an out there for Max Kepler is when he has the worst possible luck and he just happens to hit it to the other side of the infield the one time there's a guy standing there. If you listen to last episode, folks, Kepler should have had a 4 for 5 day, and instead he went like 0 for 5 because he got robbed over and over and over again.
So it's that philosophical like should have. Like, is Max Kepler any different of a player? Is he any different this year than he will be next year? Like, I would say he's not. It's just that like they put the cardboard cutouts in a different spot in the outfield, and then suddenly he's got 50 more points to his average.
Do you think my estimate is too high or too low, or do you think that's in the ballpark?
That feels pretty high, but I would say this. You give Kepler another season with this team, and if it's not 50 points higher, then you say, okay, Max, you've had your time.
Game over. Yeah, I think so. I mean, now granted, you need guys to come back to health just so you have someone to put in the outfield. I don't want to get us too far ahead of ourselves as far as like off-season potential moves, but clearly they're going to need to address that if they can't be certain that they're going to have health in the outfield.
All right, what's your musing, sir?
So real quick, I just want to talk. This was a really interesting question that Hogues asked last episode while you were out. And so I just want your order, Dan. If you could have any championship for any of the teams that you root for, who would you want to have? And like, what would be your order here in order of what you would prefer for championships?
I love the conversation you guys had. So I would go Twins number 1 because I think, as you have said, baseball is my number 1 sport. So I want my number 1 sport, my team that I root for. I was, unlike you guys, I remember a little bit of 91. I guess at that point I was 7 years old, but that doesn't feel the same as it would feel now. The other team, then my second would be the Wild, and it's for kind of both of those. It's that series aspect. So it's the fact that you get so many playoff games along the way, and if your team is winning a championship in those, that means you've just watched 20 playoff games that are intense and exciting, and they actually won them, which makes them all the more exciting. I mean, David, you and I have sat and watched a number of Wild playoff games together. Very few moments of pure joy.
Accurate.
So, and then the rest of my list would be Vikings, and then Washington State Cougars, and then the Timberwolves, and even I don't really root for anybody else. And even the Timberwolves is kind of a throwaway there for me.
That is one thing that is funny that you and I, neither of us have really ever gotten super into the T-Wolves. But
they've only been so good. They've had one good year, David, in our lifetimes.
I mean, if you're going to be a bandwagon fan, though, apparently these next couple of years are the years to do it. But anyway,
we'll see.
I did want to add to my list. I didn't talk about Gophers football, and I don't want to rehash the whole conversation, but I do say the only reason why I put Vikings number 1 is just to leave us alone, right? Like I just get so tired of how many times you're going to choke in the Super Bowl? How many times you're going to choke in the championship game? Like I just want that to be done, right? Just to be like, hey, we won a Super Bowl. Can you be done now talking about that?
And the way Hogues talked about it was so high and mighty and so pitiful towards us here. Like, oh, yeah, just don't know this feeling, do you guys?
I don't know if that was better or worse than if he had, like, rubbed it in. You know what I mean? Like,
it was just so matter of fact. It was
and it was very much, just like you said, it was very, like, from a place of pity. Like, he's like, I'm showing you mercy by not rubbing it in. And it's like, the condescension is way worse, Hogues. Had you just been like, haha, Vikings suck. Like, instead you're like, I can really understand how you guys feel. Shut up, Hogue. Shut up.
He was kind. It
wasn't intentional to, like, I don't know. He handled it with way more class than I probably would have in his situation, I guess is what I'll say.
All right, should we go to the series grades?
Yeah, this will be a long segment, I'm sure.
Series grades.
I mean, it's an A. It's an A, David. They sweep. We can pencil in, hopefully, well, they have one more series against the Royals, so I shouldn't jinx it. But so far, we've been able to say a lot of A's against the Royals, which is good because they should be taking care of business against this team.
Yeah, the only reason why I even flirted with an A- is because this is what you had to do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like, you got it done. Not in the flashiest way possible, but I mean, you got it done. So that would be the only reason I'd give them an A-. No, but clearly it's an A. If you win 3 baseball games in a row in a series, you deserve an A. All right, well, let's keep pushing here to Herbie's headlines.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So we should start with our, I guess it's an episode-by-episode update of the home run chases. Albert Pujols is still sitting at 697. Aaron Judge is at 57. Is there one you'd rather see over the other? I guess that's probably an easy question.
Pujols, no question. Now, you guys have to realize, too, Dan swooned when he said Judge's name, just so you're aware.
But again, you watch him in the batter's box. He is just a giant of a person, and yet so gentle. Like,
you're not helping your cause, Dan. Like everybody now believes that you actually swooned. There was no denial. There was just heaping praise upon Judge. That was your response to me saying that you swooned.
I just think, how can you not like the guy? That's what I'm saying.
Oh man. All right, well, you wanted to talk about this, the Roberto Clemente day.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of cool. Carlos Correa talked about this. So this was a day where a lot of players in baseball wore number 21 in honor of Roberto Clemente, who was a great Pirates player. Unfortunately, he was killed in a plane crash. But not just that, he was a great humanitarian. And I had not known this had not happened before, but the Tampa Bay Rays started a lineup that was entirely made of Latino players. And the best part of it, David, they won 11-0 against a good team, Toronto. It says something that it wasn't just simply to honor him. There's such an influx of Latino players now in baseball.
It's nuts. And like, I remember when Rocco first came to the Twins and Royce asked him, "How's your Spanish?" And it's like, it's pretty true, man. Like, the Twins tend to lean pretty Latino as far as the lineups are concerned. And that's definitely I think it's going to stick around as the trend.
Absolutely. So I thought that was really cool. Correa was saying, again, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, that, he hopes that it's a number that's up there with Jackie Robinson. So we've got the 42 and the 21. And I would think the momentum for that is got to be building.
You would think so. Well, let's keep going here, Dan. Puckett's picks for, honestly, it is the most important series of the season thus far, and it's not even close.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's picks.
So, David, the listeners are going to stick with Carlos Correa, and why wouldn't
Shocking.
they?
This would be just bizarre to me if you would take anybody else at this point.
Who are you going to go with?
I have to go with Miranda, and the only reason why I want to switch and take Arise, but Arise is struggling with a hamstring because he had to leave, and it seems like they said that his MRI came back mostly clean, which I really don't like that mostly word. Like that just doesn't fit well. So I'm going to go with Miranda and hope that he doesn't ground into a million double plays like he did this last series.
This is a difficult call. Because there's also word that Polanco should be coming back soon. You'd like to think he's going to come back for this series, but there's still that hover of injury, right? Larnack is getting closer, Jeffers is getting closer, and yet they're going to have to win this series without all of these guys, without Buxton. I guess I'm just going to probably go with Nick Gordon. I think that he's poised. If anybody's poised to have a great series, it's going to be Nick.
Well, I mean, honestly, your options are limited. And again, the last time you picked Gordon, I think he performed pretty admirably, so it'd be hard to mock you now.
I've been having great picks here lately in my Puckett's picks. I'm just not getting wins. 12, 7, 7, 7. These are great losses, David. I'll take that.
Great losses. You and Rocco, man, loving your great losses.
You got to lose well, David. That's what you got to do. All right.
Nothing like manage losses well. Yes.
Exactly. Well, how about you send us out here, sir?
Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to be notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating, that'd be great. A reminder that our episodes are now available on our YouTube channel, and if you could drop us a like and subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins! That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins!